I think we're live.
We're live
On YouTube, X. Porn is now legal on X, which I don't know if you saw that.
You can't get
today.
arrested for it on X anymore?
Yeah, so yeah, you can stop hiding in the dark, Ian.
Great.
You just
put all my porn out there. It's on VHS tapes, but
I know it's hard to put that. People don't understand how difficult analog editing is.
I try to fit the VHS tape into my phone.
It's too girthy.
It's too girthy.
It's too girthy. Yeah. No, I saw that today. Somebody tweeted. I think it was Liberty somebody. I have like half of my followers and people I follow are Liberty something.
Yeah.
And they tweeted, well, officially porn legal. And I'm like, has it not? I'm like, there'll be like a Thirsty Thursday trending, and it'll be some people like drinking, and then you're scrolling down through it, and it's just like somebody just getting pounded, and it's like, oh God. Like, I feel like it's already been legal for a pretty long time on X, that self-expression.
Freedom to what end, Brad? Freedom to what end?
The end of the D, I think, is where it is free now. But we have a special show today. Not the most prepared show. This is the first show in my new Ackworth studio. Not even gonna talk about the name we talked about before.
God, you're like the Braves. You're like what happened to the Braves in Atlanta. Just
I'm trying to get as close to the Braves as possible. I would have moved right in the Battery if I could have, but didn't have any houses there. And I was scrambling. The thing about moving is people are always like, you should put things in boxes and you should label the boxes. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Until you're trying to put your studio back together. And for some reason, you put every single cord you need in a different box in a different part of the house.
I know why you did that, Brad.
Why?
Because you were in a hurry.
That's exactly why. And porn's legal on X. You got
to get all the porn in. You get minimal time packing. You spend a lot of time on X porn.
Just analyzing the propaganda. All right, so we have a couple special guests with us today that I'm excited to talk to because I want to know what their thoughts were on the Libertarian National Convention, which Josh and I went to. I sent Josh a link to. He might join us at some point. Yeah. We have Jake Green from Liberty Libations, and we have Ted Metz, former governor candidate for the state of Georgia. And Ted, you're going to be running for office again in 2026, if that's not correct. Welcome, Ted. Welcome, Jake.
Well, thank you. You forgot to mention my last run as Secretary of State against Brad Raffensperger.
Yeah, right. Which that's one of the worst right there, Brad Raffensperger.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Does anybody point out that he's got no traceable history? I mean, people should really point that out. Hey, look into Brad Raffensperger's background, and it'll be a blank page. Like before he moved to
why he was going to college in Canada.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the Vietnam War draft.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Maybe dodging a little bit. And you're a veteran, right, Ted?
Yes.
Yeah. So Raffensperger also, everything you find out about his history before going to college, you find in his parents' obituaries. That's it. Everything else wiped. And his parents' obituaries might as well write the obituaries of former CIA agents, in my opinion.
Exactly.
That's perfect.
Speaking of former and maybe current CIA agents, I was at, and so was Ted and Jake. Jake, by the way, doing great stuff with Liberty Libations. I love y'all's show, and I love you're a fantastic cinematographer, does great work. Check out documentary on Amazon. What's the name of your documentary again?
Divide and Dominate.
Divide and Dominate. Fantastic name. Does awesome work. And we were all together at the convention, and what I saw, among many things, was feds, grifters, and propagandists, some crossovers. Obviously going to be some crossovers. It was almost like I feel like we have 3 of the non-feds, grifters, and propagandists that were there, of maybe like 9 or 10.
Did you ever think of maybe going dressed as a Fed to try to make friends with other Feds? Just be, oh, you're here too?
Well, yeah. It got to a point where, Ian, you probably know, and Jake definitely knows by now, that I can get a little obnoxious. And
we've had some fun. We've had some
especially
fun times.
If I take a gummy. I know there's a lot of gummy talk about.
Oh, you mean like a Rectenwald episode?
I was just glad I was not giving a speech because it would have been far more of a disaster than what happened with Rectenwald. especially during Trump's rally. It's one of those things where you're surrounded by such chaos and craziness that you just start yelling, "Cut his dick off!" randomly, because who cares at that point? Yeah.
But anyway, your point about doing a gummy and meeting with your friendly feds.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I was running around, just started going, "Where did the feds go? Hey, Fed!" Like, I just started calling random people feds.
Love it.
That some of them were actually following us. I will get into that in a moment.
Some of them were actually feds because they were there as the
Exactly.
what do they call it? The advance team for President Trump.
Yeah, there were some of them were security. And
Okay.
So, first off, before I go into some of those stories, Jake, we'll start with you. Just what were your overall thoughts on the convention?
It's a mixed bag. Mises Caucus, showed up for a good section of it. We did what we were there to do. Overall, I had a really good time.
Yeah, it was a great
loved going to watch RFK. Loved watching Trump. Even though I had idiots yelling in my ear the entire daggum time.
Good thing we weren't sitting near you.
Oh my gosh, it was ridiculous,
it was wild, man. Dude.
It was wild. But overall, I mean, it turned out about as well as you could hope a current Libertarian Party convention could turn out, I think.
The branding and the marketing and getting people there, Angela did a killer job doing that.
Angela murdered, man. She is the most stoic machine I've ever seen on stage. Like, she's unbelievable.
And Ian, just to give you an example of what she was putting up with in real time. At one point, and this is just what I heard, I wasn't on the floor. So they have the press is kind of in the back of this big room that kind of looks like a Starship Enterprise. And you have the delegates down on the ground. And the delegates had moments where they could come up. Is this correct? They can just come up and they can speak on an open mic?
Yeah, basically you have to call for different calls to order, like point of information, point of personal privilege. There's all sorts of ridiculous things that you have to say to be able to start speaking.
Did you guys hear?
Go ahead. Part of Robert's Rules of Order, and that's a problem with a lot of these people that go to these conventions. They don't know Robert's Rules, so they don't know how to follow the protocol.
Well, the one that stood out to me was somebody got on the mic and they said to Angela, "What's it like to suck GOP cock?" That was their, and I imagine that wasn't the only statement that happened like that throughout the time. I know there was a bit of a wrestling match between a couple of people at some point, but it was just kind of, there's the divisiveness. That's something that stood out to me, was very apparent. From that.
It was a strange one because the 2022 convention for me seemed a lot more tense and adversarial. This one just seemed tense. And then you had that dude who, from what I heard, he had to go to the hospital that night for alcohol poisoning.
Oh my gosh.
Not sure that that's absolutely correct, but I do know he was hammered.
I bet. Yeah.
Which is,
they had a bar
I'm
back
sure
there. You saw people were pounding drinks at 10 a.m.
Dude, that's my least favorite part of the Libertarian Party is drinking during business is like not only accepted, but it's almost encouraged. And it's kind of a thing. I much prefer a room full of sober people deciding what to do with the party rather than half drunks, half not.
Yeah. Start the drinking a little bit later in the day. It people can be like on the edge of making a decision. Say, I'm going to throw a few back, and that could weigh the decision one way or another. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So I want to get into what you guys saw as I know you were a delegate, Jake. What you saw on the floor, and Ted, are you a delegate or were you just there as press?
I was only there as press.
Okay. I just want to get y'all's insights, but I want to just give a quick overview of what I experienced there. Like, Josh and I got there about 3 a.m. so we weren't there for Kennedy and Vivek. We 3 a.m. on Saturday or so, and it was weird because I experienced the most vivid deja vu that I've ever experienced. I've never been to Washington, D.C., and they had that roundabout in the hotel, and I pull in there, and I look over, and there was 2 libertarians sitting on a bench kind of in the middle of a grassy island and some flowers, having an intense conversation. And I was like, I've seen that before, 100%. And I tried to roll it back and see if maybe I saw something similar at the Georgia convention at that hotel, but it's just a completely different setting. And so it was really, really weird. I don't know don't know what it was. Make whatever you think of deja vu. That was the most vivid one that I had ever had. But we get up the next day, and so Josh, he's my buddy who plays Trump on the show. Ian and mine's buddy, and he put his Trump outfit on. And after the debate, we just went kind of walking around, and everybody was wanting to come like shake his hand, and we actually stood next to Tim Cast in their group, and I because I was trying to get Josh excited, and I was like, Josh, everybody's walking past Tim Cast and the gang over there, which, by the way, the chick in Tim Cast is like 6'2". I had no idea. Very, very tall.
Hannah Claire.
Yes, Anna Claire, very tall. Very tall.
Hannah Claire is great.
Yeah. People were walking by them to shake Josh's hand. Maybe they were intimidated by him. But I was like, dude, this Tim Cast, they got millions. They're coming to see you. And then we start getting people from the Washington Post and Politico and the BBC. And then people who I realized were from news networks but didn't tell us. And they were like, oh, so you're here for the speech, Trump's speech. And they were all excited about it. And we're like, yeah. And they were, what are you going to do? What's your plan? They thought, every single one of them thought that we were there, Josh specifically, to sabotage Trump's speech, that he was dressed. What they wanted to see was Trump giving a speech, Trump standing up in the crowd, heckling Trump, charging the stage, and then Trump getting pounded by, Secret Service agents or whatever. That's what they.
And then other fake Secret Service agents come in
and pound you, try to pound real Trump. That's a distraction.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a distraction. Mm-hmm. But it was funny because we had no idea that it never dawned on me that everybody would just assume he was there to be adversarial to Trump, which Josh likes Trump. And to him, it was like an ode. His impersonation is an homage to Trump. Right?
He's good at it.
Yeah, and so Josh is great at playing. So Josh is great at like embodying Trump's persona and saying what Trump.
It sounds like Trump is actually in the room talking. Like
yeah. And so they would get mad at us. Like the Washington Post girl got mad at us, and I looked at the titles of their articles after. Trump, all of them are Trump heckled loudly. Like they all had the same format of what happened, and they just plugged in different things. And then he's more delusional than ever. The Politico guy got really butthurt. He kind of stormed off to go, find like a dick to sit on or something. He got really upset that Josh was not there to sabotage. But we were waiting in line to go into Trump's speech in the press line. And at one point, this like kind of jacked, gray-haired guy, probably in his 60s, goes, "Oh, we have two press right here." And they pointed to me and Josh. And they started escorting us in front of people. And I'm looking around going, well, all these other people are press too. And I said, you guys are all press too. Why are we being escorted in front of us? And I realized that gray-haired guy was a security guard for, I'm guessing, Trump. And they also thought that he might be a problem, and he wanted to keep his eye on us. And so I kept looking back at him, and he's watching us the whole time, and we get moved. And when we walk in, we had no choice about where to go sit. Like I went to go set my camera up, Ted, but I got there late, so I didn't have a space on that stage back there. They weren't even going to let us go back there because they directed us to a very specific seat, kind of in the middle, in front of the cameras, of the row of cameras in the back. And they had this big controversy where it was a mix of Trump supporters because Trump sent an email out. We got set next to the most hardcore MAGA people.
I'll speak to that a little later to get
So what happened there? Do you guys know what happened there in the front row where there's confusion?
The original plan was to only allow press in there until the floor session was over, and no one was supposed to go in except for press until the delegates were off the floor. So the delegates were supposed to have gotten the priority seating,
right?
And then everyone else there that was not a delegate they were supposed to have separate lines. But because I don't know if it was a communication mishap or what, it didn't work out like that. And then all the MAGA people were actually let in along with the press.
Okay, and a lot of them got seating up front, and they were there waiting. I mean, the line was just really, really long. And so then Angela had to come up and tell them to move. And then Laura Loomer starts writing articles about Angela McArdle, demands the Trump people. And it caused a bunch of news stories, but they ended up moving people that were like behind us, and they sat these kids that were probably in their early 20s, and if you were casting for Hitler's kids, back in Nazi Germany, these guys are all getting cast, and they sit them directly behind Josh. And I'm looking around going, what's going on here? And these kids are all amped up. Like anytime somebody's like yelling against Trump, they're like, oh, I'll fucking fight somebody. Like they were everything Trump, the last thing Trump needs at a rally is one of these kids popping off,
Right.
And I even went back and watched some of my videos. I could see them in the back, like when they thought we were like saying stuff against Trump. Like I was just mocking everything. They'd kind of be like they were gonna jump up. And at one point, one of them leaned up. It was like, maybe a Trump impersonator was sent here to sabotage Trump. And I was like, shut the fuck up.
He said that?
I told him to
Seriously?
shut fucking mouth. Yeah. I was like, shut the fuck up.
That's
You
hilarious.
dumb shit. And he's like, oh, I said, shut the fuck up and sit down, you dumb shit. And I'm like, he fucking loves her. The reason I was mad is because that gray-haired guy I told you about that ushered us through, he came over and sat on the other side of us. So we have Josh and these Hitler's kids behind us, and you have all these media people who are hoping Josh sabotage, because one guy came up and goes, I'm from the German press. I can't wait to see what you do, man. I'm like, God, they really think you're here to do some shit, Josh. And so the media are like focusing in on Josh. Like, I'll show you an example. I think I showed you this, Jake. But this is I found like a dozen of these since the convention. Look at this picture here on stage. This is.
Oh, Josh. Oh, that's right. He's in all these photos.
Yeah. So this is the BBC. That's Josh in the middle right there, and you see these kids in suits by him.
Yeah.
They sat those kids by him to make it look like he's their leader.
Oh.
Yeah, and then they're
They
putting
did
him
a
on
good job. They
and
did
you
a
can
good
see
job.
there, you can see my hat because I started sitting down when I realized what they were doing. That's my hat right there. See? And,
Dude, that's so good.
yeah,
That's really good branding for Josh.
totally. And Josh is like holding his phone up too. He's got his perfect facial expression. It's hilarious. But the security guy was turning around there because they brought another one in. And they're taking pictures, they're taking pictures of the press, which is kind of creepy. But they're also, I can see the guy pointing the camera at us. And I'm like, I was like, Josh, it dawned on me, I told him the same thing you did, that everybody here, after the German guy was like, can't wait to see what you do. Like, he's not going to go do anything to Trump. I'm like, everybody thinks you're going to sabotage. And I started saying, these two feds over here think that you're going to and the guy had been like engaging us in conversation, trying to get information out of us. And then they sat these two other people who were like, they were all probing for information from us, and they were the most hardcore MAGA. And that's the point where I just said, I don't trust anybody here. I said, everybody here's a Fed. I think I might be a Fed. And that's when I just started going, cut their dick off crazy. Because I was like, Josh loves Trump, and you have these two security guards focusing on us and taking pictures of us when there could be somebody actually doing something over there. Like, I kept telling him, you're focusing on the wrong person, dude. And one of them finally got up and left. It was the most, I get why they're careful about it, but man, who knew dressing up as Trump would get so much, that's going to tell you if you're a freaking terrorist, get somebody to dress up as Trump. There's your distraction.
You know, it all started too with him doing that Daenerys Targaryen Trump hybrid.
They don't know about that.
You guys don't know. He used to dress up as Daenerys Trump, and he would do
trans before it was cool.
Yeah, he would do Daenerys Targaryen with the Trump voice, and it was perfect. And he would talk about Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
and he would talk about, he would mash all of the MAGA stuff and Game of Thrones together. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.
When she, not to do a spoiler, but when she burns everybody with a dragon, he went up and did like a fire and fury speech. It's hilarious. It's really, it's very niche, but it's very.
We're gonna get the throne.
Right? Yeah. We're gonna do what we have to do. If he got on here and got those videos, we could show you one of those. But there's that's one of those.
Yeah, he used to get attention dressed like that.
Let me show you guys one of
I bet.
Yeah.
Trump heckled loud. So did you guys think that it was just nothing but Trump heckled loudly? Because I know I was sitting in the MAGA section of that crowd, and it felt like it was mutual.
Well, I could hear. So I was sat right in between. So I was at the back of the Libertarians and the front of the MAGA crowd. And then all to my left was all Libertarians, and it was like nonstop children screaming, having a tantrum in my area. It was embarrassing. I didn't care for it. I just wanted to, I wanted us to boo on the things that are most important.
Yeah.
And not boo the entire speech and just endlessly scream free Ross.
And the problem was that it was just like competing public relations stunts in that room, and I felt it there were people who were trying to give that would have been the best way to respond, in my opinion. Cheer what's good, boo what's bad, instead of giving the media just what they wanted.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Because I didn't get to go, so I only got to see what you guys were showing me, and then what I was reading and watching. And I knew that there would be more to the story, because when I was reading about the Trump speech the next day, all the sources made it sound like Trump had been booed the entire time. Nobody liked him. That he was in front of a very unfriendly crowd. But the thing is, well, kudos to him for going in front of an unfriendly crowd, because the current president would never do that.
Nope, he got the invite too, and he declined. So
of course,
and that is
they don't care about us.
I'd say, what did you guys think? Yeah, what did you guys think about the overall speech? Just this. Yeah, go ahead, Ted. Sorry.
I'm glad you asked. One of the things there was a failure in delivery in some of the very early lines, because his lines about, I've been, indicted 34 times, that makes me one hell of a libertarian.
I know, right? I wasn't libertarian before, I am now. Yeah.
People have never really followed Trump don't know that he's a funny son of a gun.
He is funny.
Super
he's quick
funny.
too.
He is, and then his delivery when he started out talking about the article that Leroy Murdoch wrote about him, and these are all the points about Trump that makes him a libertarian. If people hadn't been so disruptive and they'd actually heard that what he was doing was quoting an article that someone else wrote about him, I think the speech would have been a little bit better accepted. But they missed that initial delivery line.
Well, yeah, and it made it seem like he was personally referring to himself in the third person for about half the speech, which it was the most Trumpian thing, man. It was like, this is where we are now. Trump is such a big figure. He's now referring to himself as another person.
Yeah.
It was wild.
And it did feel, and it might have been you that said this first, Jake, when we were there, but it did feel like Trump recognized that it was just going to be a little hostility, and that he was just getting through he's the speech he needed to get through. He made his few, he'd be go get your 3% then. I mean, going in front of a hostile crowd.
Beautiful. I mean that that's a classic example of a mean tweet, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But he's not wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him likable, in my opinion, when he does that kind of thing, because that's how we all talk.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how, so he usually speaks for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So I think it was like 35 minutes or something like that. By the way, Denver Attaway says, I haven't seen the story that Google algorithm and their search IPA code that 14K pages leaked and confirms that the page rank stuff is not organic, and which, is something that I think we all suspected with Google, especially in the past few years when you can't find anything new, ever. You go 100 pages.
You and I talked about this before. The other day, I tried to find something. I was looking for something specifically in 2012, and I didn't see. Well, maybe it was I was on my phone, but in the advanced search tools, I couldn't narrow it by year anymore. Maybe I had to be on a desktop.
You can't. It's very hard to, because the stuff on the side makes the other stuff still show up. The newer stuff, you have to
There's
minus
stuff from
every single word.
'97 I want to look up.
It's like newspaper archives. It's really, you got to get a subscription and go to those. But
I heard of a new hack earlier today that you translate your search into a different language and try to search it in a different language. You get different results.
It's trying to make us all bilingual. It's trying to make us all smarter. I guess.
That's definitely what it's doing, for sure.
It's for our own best interest. When Trump came out, to me, I did feel kind of like the aura of him, because he's become this character now, and he does the same thing he ever does. JC says it's almost like Trump is a caricature of himself, and it really kind of is. Like, he did the same thing. They had God Bless America, and Jake, I know you were in there when they were running through and playing it beforehand, and you too, Ted. And Trump did the same thing where he just kind of like, he just stands and just
I'm proud
for the full song. For the full song.
He's used to getting a rousing ovation, though, which he didn't get there. But the free Ross thing, and I know he said commute, Ross. He said commute to time served. So that would, on the surface seem like freeing. But what I point out is a lot of people were tweeting Trump promised to pardon Ross. Pardon and commutes are different. And he specifically chose not to say pardon. And that's the thing that sticks in my mind, because a lot of what's resting on listening to, did you guys hear Angela today when she was talking about, she talked about Chase as the nominee. Chase won the Libertarian nominee, if most of you guys probably know that by now. But Angela said she was doing the endorsement, and she said, this is not her exact words, but basically, we endorse, or I don't know if she said we or I don't know. I think she was speaking on behalf of the party, maybe. I don't know.
She's the chair.
She's the chair. Okay. Yeah. Endorse Chase Oliver as the best way to stop Biden, which is kind of an endorsement for Trump. Some people took it as. But I mean,
definitely took it that way.
Probably quite accurate and honest.
Yeah. She's got a needle to thread there. I don't envy her position, but she did it, and she had some gay flag colors to kind of troll on there. On her StreamYard thing. What did you guys think of that?
I didn't see it, but if I had known about it, I would have watched.
Yeah, it just happened a few hours
working.
ago.
Yeah, I was out working in the mountains.
Chase is the nominee. What are your thoughts on that?
I voted NOTA, so that should tell you everything you need to know.
That was an interesting situation too.
I don't. I have a lot of personal issues with Chase. I mean, he's in my county affiliate for years. Drove me personally nuts. He has a lot of.
Is that because he talks and talks and talks and never listens?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. He doesn't. I find it hard to believe that he would ever listen to any actual advice from another human being. I also, this is where it gets more personal. Is me and my wife both joined the LP at the same time. Both met Chase probably 7 to 10 times. There was one time where we went on a trash cleanup with just me, my wife, and Chase. And the next time we saw Chase, he had no idea who she was. Again, he's introduced himself to my wife every single time that they've met. And it's been, at this point, dozens of times. He has no idea who she is. And
is that an indicator of IQ?
I think that's an indicator of self-obsession and narcissism, where
agree.
you don't ever pay attention to anybody who's actually around you. I showed up at this convention, and he turned around. I had just walked in, set my backpack down, and he's already giving me a campaign speech. Like, dude, how about you say, Jake, how's it going? Like, how's your trip? How about just something other than something about you? That's all. That's what I would like.
Yeah, no, he is very in campaign mode a lot. That's for me, Josh Smith was always kind of the best at being the down to earth person.
Are you saying that as your observation from the convention, or have you had any other significant encounters with him where he does nothing but talk about himself?
Are you talking to me?
No, I'm talking to Brad.
I've only encountered him at the debate in Georgia and at the convention. And so for me, I fuck around a lot. Okay. I'm going to be honest.
Have you found out yet?
I have not. Well, in some instances I have, but yeah, I like to crack jokes and I like to have fun. And so here's one of my first encounters with Chase at the convention. I went up to him and I did the same thing. I have this old phone from the 90s. It's a flip phone, like a Zach Morris phone. And I go up and I say, you have a phone call. And I try to get people to answer and start talking to it. And they grab it for a second. Then they do a double take and they're like, oh. And so that's what I did to Chase when I saw him. So he couldn't do campaign mode because I was fucking with him a little bit, and he took it well. And then he also we had Josh there, and so that was a good Josh. And then they played around, and so we kind of got them out of the campaign mode a little bit. But when he won, and doing the interview, he totally switched into Chase doing media, which that's what he's gonna. He was probably trained to do when he ran for the Senate in 2022, and that he's going to continue being trained to do. And I heard Larry, was it Larry Sinclair? Not Sinclair.
Larry
That's
Sharp.
the guy. Gosh, that's not somebody that you want to
You
mix
said
up
that
with.
last time.
I did. Larry Sinclair is the guy who claims he had sex with Barack Obama. So that is not the Larry I'm talking about. Yes. It was Larry.
Case, it might as well be.
Yeah. Well, Larry and Lars, which by the way, I interviewed Lars right after Chase won, and Josh accidentally hit slow motion, and I posted it on Twitter without realizing that. And somebody's like, "Why is this in slow motion?" And I went to go watch it, and it was like, blah 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 blah. I was like, "All right, better take that down."
That's hilarious.
But I heard, so those two have money, and I heard them at like 2 a.m. I'm like pretending to be on the phone. I'm like, nah. I was like, you shut up, you bitch. You dinner better be ready, stuff like that. And I'm just listening to them talk, and they're talking about how they're going to round up all this money to make Chase a viable candidate, and they're putting their money behind him. And what my perception of this is that, or point of view is that I feel like Chase probably got to that position because he is viewed as the most manipulatable by people who can have strings.
Kind of like Herschel Walker.
Yes, kind of like Herschel Walker. I think Chase, from my personal experiences, seems like a nice enough guy. I don't agree with a lot of his personal beliefs. I do think his opinions have been misrepresented to a certain extent online, but also
Agreed.
Some of them, I don't like that he at one time said, I am not a Ron Paul libertarian. And maybe he's not, but Ron Paul's the man. And maybe he did give Ron Paul credit in other instances, and that's all that's going around. I feel for him because he's just he put himself in this situation, but he's going to be subjected to a lot of shit over the next few months.
On top of that, a lot of scrutiny.
Absolutely.
And hopefully some online, some psychologists are going to weigh in on his mental state once they start hearing what he has to say.
And some of the pictures, and it's just, it's a brutal thing to be a public figure. And, Trump put himself in that position, and Chase has put himself in this position. I think that there's probably a lot of grifters out there who act like they might want to be in certain positions, but maybe don't, because if scrutiny were to come their way, their absence of history or clear deletion of history might come to the forefront, and questions might be asked, or name changes and stuff like that. Sometimes when you look at a person, you start asking questions and you say, I bet that's not their real name. You find out it's not. And that just opens up a wormhole. And that's not to say that that person's wrong or bad. It's just to say, I don't think you want to really be in a position of power. Although Brad Raffensperger might bust my theory up on that. I don't know. This is my thing. I'm just looking around. I'm just seeing so many grifting things going on. And I'm guessing it's probably like that at every convention, Democrat, Republican. It's not like the Democrat and Republican conventions are like, none of us are drunk and we're all abstinence of sex and we're all very businesslike the whole time. They're probably even crazier. I'm glad the Libertarian convention got the attention it did. For me, it was just an eye-opening experience. I'd never been to anything like that before.
Yeah, it's wild. From what I understand about Democratic and Republican conventions is they're far more scripted and staged. They already somewhat know what's going to happen, and they don't just let anybody go up to the mic. Whereas we just let everyone go up to the mic and say whatever they want, whenever they want, and everybody's participating. Yeah, it's not the most efficient way to do business, but I guess it's the libertarian way.
So what was it like on the floor?
It was, for our area, for Georgia, we're split basically in half between people who support Chase and people who don't at all. And so it was pretty tense in our couple rows. I know a lot of people were accused of lying and not supporting the people that they should be supporting, and trying to screw over our ballot access in Georgia and all this kind of stuff. But the floor can be a little chaotic. A lot of times people don't know what's going on, which makes sense because I don't think anyone actually knows what's going on a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Robert's Rules of Orders. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a book about that thick of.
I don't know anything about it. Yeah,
dude, it's rules on how to conduct yourself during a convention, and like the proper terms to use, what you can challenge, what you can't, when you can bring things up. When you can't.
The hierarchy of motions, resolutions of motions.
Yeah.
So is there somebody there who like knows them really, really well? I know. I think.
Forest Mommy says it in the comments.
Okay.
Karen Ann Harlos. She knows.
the pink hair girl. The pink hair.
Yes.
Okay.
She's very, very good at Robert's Rules,
and so she can call people out when they're in violation of it and stuff like that.
Yeah, and there are a few other people. Like a lot of people study it because they're super nerds, and that's what half the Libertarian Party is. So like Nick Siselsky is friggin' genius with Robert's Rules, and he studies it in depth. So there are some people out there who know all the rules, but most people don't. I've glanced at the abridged version, which is still thick, but
it's like being a lawyer. It's like knowing the things. So you got to know the loopholes, so you can call people out. And it's a lot of people try and exploit definitional things and stuff like that. If I had to guess. Yep. Forest Mommy says the autistics are good for Robert's Rules stuff.
That's why libertarians love it, man. That's why they love
There's definitely a lot of autistics in the room there, and yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this: I helped a group put out a 13-course series on Robert's Rules for the Republican parties prior to the last convention, and the ones that participated the most heavily were the counties in which they threw out all of the establishment rhinos and went all patriot people, grassroots patriots. So, knowing how the rules work, same thing has happened to us doing advocacy work at city council meetings. The people that understood Robert's rules would stick around to make sure that a motion that was tabled wasn't removed from the table and voted on later. That happened a lot to us in marijuana advocacy. So we'll table this until later, and then all the advocates leave, and then they bring it back on the floor and vote it down. So,
Dana actually reminded me that Josh did his interpretation of the Robert's Rules. Let me see if I can find that tweet there. I think this is it. Here, let me see.
It is super helpful to know Robert's Rules backwards and forwards. Like it comes in handy.
I'm sure it gives you an advantage. That's how you got to protect yourself from people who would get away with stuff. And from what I understand, wasn't there some I don't know about confusion or some conflict over some delegates who weren't supposed to be voting or something?
Yeah, that was at the very beginning. Honestly, I think that was just a massive waste of time. Spike Cohen talked about this yesterday in the Twitter Spaces, talking about how all of our business should have been done prior, and we should have already picked our presidential candidate. Anyway, I want to see this.
I like Spike a lot, by the way. So Spike seems like a really good guy. I'm sure I was very, very obnoxious, but he seemed like he was very tolerant of my obnoxiousness, and it seems like
he's been around libertarians, so he's used to it.
Yeah. So here's Josh. Day 2, Josh came down. He didn't have his Trump thing on. He was just hanging out, and he was doing some camera work while I was interviewing people, and he was getting a little bored with his stuff. So here's him just talking about the bylaws.
Lady Soul from Indiana moves to suspend the rules.
The rules of what? They do this every 5 minutes.
It would be a 2/3 vote, and it is not debatable. But we're going
I'd like to motion that we make this as long as possible, please. Can I motion for us to extend this as long as possible?
The yeas have it.
We need 2/3 majority, so can we vote on having a vote, please?
That's exactly right.
But the rules are suspended.
Well, we're going to suspend the rules so that we can vote on resuming the rules after we suspend the rules.
That's killer.
That look on his face is amazing.
It's great.
It's so genuine.
It was great. Yeah.
That's so funny.
And
Goodness
this is another
gracious.
thing. Somebody was apparently making a documentary out of it, and they.
Oh,
I
that
remember-
dude, that super nerdy dude.
His name is Ford Fisher.
Oh,
They were
Ford's a good
carrying
friend of mine.
chickens around.
I've
Oh.
known him since he was a teenager.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
he's
talking about.
a Kennedy guy, right?
I
Because they
think
had the
he's the main
chickens. They were
independent.
trying to get people to squeak the chickens during the thing, but they wouldn't let them. And so
Well,
we were
that was for theatrics.
right. And so he found us when we were walking up the stairs, and I found this on his Twitter the other day. It's got like thousands of views, and this is I'm guessing the portion he'll put in his.
Come to the Libertarian Party? What was the thought process?
You know, the thought process is trying to get libertarians behind me. You know, the biggest thing ever to hit the United States of America since one of my towers. Excuse me, hold on a second. Yeah, I'll take 15 double cheeseburgers, 4 large fries, and a gallon of Diet Cokes. Thank you, Brad.
Mr. President, they're passing these out. It says debate Bobby, and they're a chicken.
I'll
So
debate
they're
Bobby.
saying you're a chicken if you don't debate him. What do you say to that?
You know, I'm not chicken.
Hey, nobody calls the president chicken. Nobody calls. This is over.
I'll
This is done. This is
I'll
done.
debate that chicken right now. I'll debate that chicken right now.
This is done. It's Bush League.
Yeah, so whenever somebody would shake his hand, I would break up the handshake. I was acting like a Secret Service fed.
That's so good.
We had a lot of fun doing that. The most fun part of the convention for me was catching, not that they were really hiding it very well, but catching Mike Tremont and Chase having their secret meeting, because they snuck all the way behind a pole in the back of the room. And they were like squunched up, and we were standing right. It was like right after we filmed that video of Josh doing the rules, and I was like, "Hey, look, they're having a secret meeting about it." So I walked over to them, and I kind of like snuck in, like I was like I was like, "Hey guys, secret meeting about where the votes go," and I like rubbed my hands together, and Termat goes, "Well, what are you supposed to do at this point?" And he stormed off. Like a little baby, he stormed. Oh, I'm a police officer and a Fed, and he just stormed off. And I'm like, God, dude. And the best part about that to me was getting to tell Hornberger about it, because I knew Hornberger would not have any of that shit. And Hornberger did not think me or Josh was funny at all up until this point. Ever. Yeah. He hated everything that we did before that. Yeah. Everybody else was cool with it, but Hornberger, no. So Hornberger came walking by, and I was like, "Hey, Hornberger," which I didn't call him Horny Burger like we'd been calling him. I just called him Hornberger. and I said, "Hey, you know, I just saw them having that secret meeting over there. You know what I did?" And I told him that story, and he goes, that's funny. And I was like, I'm satisfied with my trip now.
Yeah, that's always who you want to make laugh, the person you can't crack.
And he goes, "That's funny." And I said, "You know what, dude? I don't agree with everything that you say, but I'll tell you what, I know you ain't changing on your principles, and you never be behind that little pole over there." And he goes, "Well, thank you very much." And, and I was like, "Oh, I feel so happy now."
That's so good, man. I love that.
Have you followed any of Reginald's comments post convention about that?
I have. Yeah, I've seen some of the which ones are you talking about specifically?
He needs to stop posting. That's the main thing.
Well,
just
essentially that Termat did not follow through on what he and Reginald had agreed upon.
Correct.
So Termat was going both ways. What it looked like to me was Termat was in third place, and he had the power kind of, and it looked like he was looking for the best deal. They say, you go to the person you want to see what they'll both offer you, but you go to the person who's losing and because they'll be willing to give you the most in order to win. And I guess Chase did that. Well,
the deal was I guess technically speaking, it wasn't a written deal, but it was more of a handshake, man of your word type deal, where for months leading up to the convention, Reginald and Termat were telling each other, if I go out before you, you get my full endorsement. Okay.
Right.
This was leading up to the convention. This was the first 4 rounds of voting. Termott was telling Reginald this because it was clear that Reginald was going to knock out Termott. And
Right.
then in that 7th round, out of nowhere, after that, I tweeted out backroom meeting. What I should have said was back of the room meeting. You know, Mike Termott went back on his word and decided not to endorse Reginald and went with Chase.
I wondered if the reason he might have done, I don't know what else Chase could have offered that was more, but I wonder if he was not convinced that they would have certainly picked, because I feel that they would not have, like, I feel the only way he could be sure Clint would not be the VP is if he went with Chase. That's what I feel like.
My point is that he did it for selfish reasons. He didn't do it by sticking to his word and following through on something that he had promised another person. Dude. And so, you know, what else? What is, you know, what do you expect from a cop? You know,
what I was kind of thinking was that, you know, Termott was thinking, oh, great, I can be Chase's VP. And when Chase is elected, when he dies of his 15th COVID vaccine, you know, I'll be the president.
Well, he might get it as well, maybe, or maybe he wants to be. So I have a theory that he's angling to be the Libertarian chosen, which I don't think would ever happen. But I feel like this is only play to be the Libertarian chosen for Trump's administration.
Dude, he will never get picked for that. That is
absolutely
is idiotic. To think that Trump would even have any idea who he was is crazy.
Well, let me say this, because this goes back to the entire history that I have been in the Libertarian Party. These have been the most unaccomplished candidates we have ever had.
Yep.
They have nothing to show for themselves.
Why
on earth were we voting on words and rhetoric over accomplishment and merit?
It's the blank slate theory. It's you get somebody in there who's a blank slate, so they can't be judged on really. Well, obviously their past words, but their past actions.
Right.
Like Barack Obama.
That's like Obama, right, exactly.
So here's a video that Chase posted earlier, and this is just... So Termott to me came off at the Georgia debate and his website as somebody who's just so completely artificial, like at every turn. And... I don't think I asked a question in the best way at the debate, but the thing about the big lie that he has on his website, I thought the way he responded to that was just kind of revealing that he's just completely full of shit. And I went back and watched it the other day, and it's funny because I must have called him Mike because he got mad when I answered the question. He started his response by going, "Okay, Brad," like we're in the 3rd grade. And I'm like, what? Yeah. And so here's a video, and I actually think Chase's biggest problem might be Termott. This is the most cringiest video that
I'm going to step off screen.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they're standing in front of the Lincoln Memorial during this video here, and here is the cringe.
My name is Chase Oliver, and I'm the Libertarian candidate for President of the United States. And this is my running mate, Mike Termott. We've come from across the party spectrum to form this unity ticket. Because like Abraham Lincoln says, a house divided against itself cannot stand.
Yeah, Termott is facing him and staring at him like he's his handler the whole time.
Dude, just friggin' kill me. First of all, if you're going to make this video, get everybody in the place's attention as well. You look irrelevant and no one cares.
Yeah, it looks like he's doing this in a shopping mall.
You this, Jake?
But that's accurate. Your statement is accurate, Jake.
Did you say it looks like a shopping mall, Ian?
Yeah, it looks like he's doing it in a shopping mall.
Everybody's looking at the Lincoln Memorial. Nobody's looking at them.
It was a horrible optics. I mean, you
get a Native American with a drum to come out there is what you do.
There we go. Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
This is how you do it.
The Braves games.
Yes, no, the guy, and then you get some of those Christian kids, the Catholic kids, and you stage that whole thing again. You get everyone's attention, and then you announce that, and then you announce that you've got a unity ticket.
Yeah,
right.
A unity ticket of the 2%. You know, you're not unifying across parties. You're unifying within the.
We've taken
the party
1.5% and another 1.5%, into a mighty 3%.
And it's not even a unity ticket. The unity ticket would have been Rechtenwald or.
Is
Clint
there anything
Russell.
like unity in the Libertarian Party, other than everyone just agrees? And I know I'm being overly simplistic to make a joke, but it seems like I definitely align with libertarian principles, but at the same time, I don't ever vote for them. You know,
Your little L is what I heard.
Yeah, I'm like a little L.
I understand that sentiment. I get that.
You know,
That's
I
how a lot
want
of my
to.
friends are.
I really, really want to.
If we could put forth an impressive candidate, I would imagine that would change. But we just don't do that because we get it. We get it our own way.
I want to see one at my local, like super low local level. You know, because I think one of the things is,
Well,
I think
Force
a lot
Mommy
of
ran in her locale.
I think a lot of people just don't know what a libertarian is. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
I mean,
and part of the libertarian philosophy is, you know, since we're anarchists and don't believe in government, we could never work for government and
the organizing
taxpayer dollars as a salary.
Yeah.
So that keeps a lot of the better candidates out.
Is the main goal then? Is it really more about injecting a philosophy into the conversation, or I don't know? You know,
my goal running for office is changing the dialogue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's changing the dialogue, and that's kind of the whole purpose of the bigger campaigns. So like presidential, the fact that Mike Tremont has said repeatedly that he thinks there's a chance that they're going to win should be a disqualifier immediately. As soon as you say that, and as soon as you say you think you're going to win the presidency as a libertarian, you no longer deserve to be the candidate.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a disqualification. The purpose of that campaign is messaging, and to get to spread the message. Locally, we get people elected all the time. Local elections, I think last year it was like 500 libertarians got elected.
You need a libertarian George Soros is what you need.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
They cease to be libertarians then. At that point.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow, this is a conundrum.
Yeah, and it seems like the libertarians with money turn out to be like CIA.
That's exactly right.
Peter Thiel, not to mention any names.
Yeah. Oh well, please do. No, you don't have to. Who do you guys? Force Mommy says, "Yeah, Ted, getting in front of people and telling them the government is bad." Absolutely, yeah. We don't have a billionaire backing like Act Blue, and you have Indivisible in every precinct, and it's just the organizing principle and the lack of shame from the other parties is just it makes it difficult to go up against. And what do you guys think about? What was I going to ask you? I just completely lost my train of thought. What was it? It's like I'm on a gummy again. It's like I'm on a gummy and I'm in Washington, D.C., which is illegal there, Ian, by the way. That's why
You started out by responding to Forrest Mommy's last response.
The activism. JC says if Lars was actually serious, he would be a libertarian source. I was wondering about. I think Lars is in for. I think he's going to be helping Chase out. It seems
he better pledge that $1 million that he said he was going to pledge for his own campaign.
You know,
I thought he's just going to get him a free account.
So I said to him, I said it off camera because I was going to say to him what I told you and what I've told Jake before, Ted, about if you run again or if whatever. But he said he wasn't going to run again, so I didn't say it. That you need to lead with the strategy of not avoiding the elephant in the room about the porn thing. You need to make it a cybersecurity thing, like how you're an expert.
I told you that, didn't I?
No, I told you that, and you told me to go tell his guy that. And I was going to tell him that if he's told me he's going to run again. And
I actually did catch him on the floor and told him that.
What did he say? Was he like
that? I told him to say that he's the only actual candidate that has cybersecurity experience, and he knows the elections are rigged.
I mean that is the angle that he should have played. I think. And when I asked him if he's going to run again, he said no. And then I said, well, you know, I think that it might be an idea to think about if you guys do. And I was like, I probably shouldn't have said it this way, but I was like, I think you get Hollywood. I think maybe he took that as like, porn. But I didn't mean it that way. I just meant he's got money. This is basically what I meant. And he can fund it. I was like, you need to do like an actually well-filmed acted before and after. The world before libertarianism, what you see it as now, and then film and after what a libertarian world is like, so people know what the fuck it is that you're talking about. And that's how people connect to things, is through like drama. And if you do that well, they could get you, Jake, to be a cinematographer. I don't know why Chase didn't contact you to ask about that, because you know what probably happened? Termont probably said, "Oh, I got my cinematographer," and then some guy who's like 65 years old came out with a VHS camcorder. You know? And just like everything on his website, and it looks like shit. And I think that something like that. I mean, there are a couple movies. What's that movie called? The Smiths, something that the Jonestown something came out like maybe a year ago. What was that libertarian film that came out? Some of you guys might know what I'm talking about.
I don't know that one.
I can't remember the name of it. It'll come to me in a minute.
Was it with Sandra Bullock?
No. This was very low budget. It was very low budget. It was, it was fundraised, I think, on like GoFundMe. Or
I think it
like
would be
that.
hard to capture
The Jonestown Plantation.
I think you probably capture it in a book better than a movie, because I would imagine that a libertarian world would be a lot of smaller communities of like-minded people with one guiding principle of leaving everyone else the fuck alone.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think a better way to demonstrate it wouldn't be a before and after. It would be a here's peaceful people, and now have a government come in and destroy them.
Yeah, there you go.
That's exactly what's happened in the United States.
But people don't see it.
But you need to set it in a different time period so people can see it. Like,
so it's like a reverse before. It's like before governments came in and did that, and we show almost what hunter and gatherer.
Set it in the Old West. Set it in the Old West. You know.
Yeah, we'll get Alec Baldwin to direct it.
Perfect.
Gunslinger in it. Yeah, Larkin Rose is the guy's name. That's
starring Robert De Niro.
What was that, by the way?
Dude, why is he on stage doing anything? I don't understand.
And he was sent by De Niro, or not by De Niro, by Biden.
Oh yeah, no, it's they're brazenly showing how involved they were now. Like, now they don't care.
Have you guys seen where Biden was asked about?
Oh yeah, the smirk.
It just turns around.
The smirk.
Smiles.
I mean, what a super villain. No. It's the creepiest thing. It's the creepiest thing. I have a thread that I'm on with one of my friends who's a big Biden supporter, and he continually tells me I'm in a cult. And then I throw out to him 4 or 5 other people I'd vote for, but Trump's the only option, so that's who I'm voting for. I'm like, so who else would you vote? It's just hilarious. Literally, it's the party of projection now.
Well,
everything. He sends me these texts where it's like, here are the 6 steps to you being in a cult. Here are the 6 things, and I'm like, yeah, this is you, man.
He sent you that 6 steps to being in a cult.
Yes, it's these 6 things, and one of them is
6 signs you're in a cult.
Yeah, 6 signs you're in a cult, and I'm like, so I took him number by number and showed him how he filled each one of them.
And he just said, "You're racist, MAGA."
People are so in denial, man. They have
he's old school. He's 60. He's old.
Rob?
He's an old school Democrat, and he doesn't realize where the party is now.
Yeah.
Well,
you should just
face though.
What's that?
We are being hypnotized.
Oh my gosh!
People who watch mainstream media are hypnotized.
He's hypnotized. It's crazy, and I can't get he told me that New York Times was a decent news source, and that none of my news sources were decent.
Yeah, I know somebody who told me that BuzzFeed was a good news source. I was like, dude, why are you being? Don't tell other people that. Here's the video of Biden being asked about.
Look at
Trump.
that face, though, man. That is.
He looks like he's got.
That's the face of a man being controlled by Barack Obama.
Yeah, he's got a fist up his ass.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, can you tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir? Do you think the conviction will have an impact on the campaign? We'd love to hear your thoughts, sir.
Should he be on the ballot, sir?
Be on the ballot, sir? Like,
what?
I mean,
Should
people are
he
going to say
not be on the
that.
ballot? So So now that the Democrats have set up the fact that Trump is a dictator and he's going to destroy America, let's say he wins. Does Biden leave the White House?
Well, no, it's because it's a Trump.
How can they step? How can they hand over power now when their whole narrative has been he's a dictator, he's going to be dictator on day one?
Well, and so this is my question. So this is what concerns me. I don't know how much Trump has raised, $8 billion since he got convicted.
Yeah, I think it's like 80 or 90 billion.
80 or 90, like every single UFC fighter, whatever it is, they're like, I'm donating all of my life savings.
He is Scrooge McDuck just on a pile of coins
Trump
right
shows
now.
up to the UCF UFC fights, and the guys are like, in between punches, going to shake his hand. They're just enthralled by him.
But I guarantee he loses the election. I guarantee it.
Well, and this is my concern here is if Trump
and then Biden's
wins,
and then Biden's poll numbers go down 5 more points the day after he's elected.
Right. Well, if Trump wins, the question for me is, why would they stop? Like, why would they do all of this stuff and stop? It's they wanted him there.
Well, it's like they've been saying over and over again. It's because they're above the law. I mean, no one's above the law, except for them.
Right.
I have a
and
hard
democracy
time,
is at stake because they're going to take it away from us.
Exactly. And the thing is, they keep saying democracy, which just fries my.
I know we're a republic. I keep saying republic. They
don't want you to know that we're in a republic. They want democracy because they think 50% of the vote plus one is enough to rule the country.
Yeah, this is what.
So they're actively pushing the whole concept of democracy, being the majority wants it, so they're. But we need more people out there talking about mob rule.
Oh, sure.
Republic.
I mean, the biggest voter disenfranchisement that could ever happen in this country would be getting rid of the Electoral College.
Say that one more time. I missed part of that.
I said the biggest voter disenfranchisement that could happen in this country would be getting rid of the Electoral College.
The mob rule. That's what they were trying to protect against. The
because what is the point of having North Dakota as a state anymore?
Get rid
what would
of
be the point?
Let them secede. Let's get them out. That sounds great to me.
That's the Libertarian
Montana
position.
come too? I want Montana to go with them.
So it would be these super regions. It would be like 3 super regions.
So
Denver it's already like 2 super regions.
Sure.
It's the highly populated areas.
Yep.
And outside of the suburbs.
Right.
Denver says something that I worry about here. He says that they're trying to provoke someone into violence so they can initiate the next phase of lockstep.
This is another thing.
Never do that.
Not a single city on fire after Trump being convicted of a felony.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Not a single intersection shut down. Nothing looted. Nothing robbed. Nothing.
Except by feds. It's going to be feds that initiate all that. But if Trump loses, because it seems so overwhelmingly obvious that he would not lose. And I think even the outcome of the Libertarian convention with Chase winning was the best outcome for Trump because a lot of the right-leaning Libertarians are going to vote for Trump, and Chase is going to pull people from Biden. So that's the best outcome for him.
Do you think he says Proud Boys advance if he loses?
No, I think he does. I think it just reveals. I think that would be what many believe the second time they have stolen an election, and that could push it past either a breaking point or it could say, well, they're submissive, we could do anything. And the flip side of that, if Trump wins, the question is, why did they stop? As I mentioned earlier, when they pulled out all the stops there, it's such, I mean, I'm sure there's other ways to think about it than that kind of narrow way.
Well, I've been thinking about if Biden wins, I'm going to get a root cellar going. I'm going full prepper.
I've got to interrupt this though because I follow this around the country. There are so many people who have gotten involved after all of the revelations about how the Dominion systems don't work.
Yep.
And the hand-counted paper ballots is the only way to actually do an election. Is that counties are? I know we're doing it here in Georgia. They're going to be forced to comply with the law that each election supervisor is supposed to properly canvass and count the votes before they certify. And that's been the problem, is they haven't been certifying the elections. They're just going with whatever the numbers come out of the machine. And we've been tuned up to that due to Kathy Cox's Diebold system. There was absolutely no way to verify a vote. You just punch something in the computers. Okay, there's your vote. Bye.
And like they would have us believe before that because the Fulton County government was under the control of hackers for a couple of months, but the only thing not hackable was those Dominion voting machines, according to them. But Ted, what is the law in Georgia now? There was a new law passed that you and Garland, everybody's worked hard on that enabled what you're just talking about, right?
Right. Public ballots are public record.
Yeah.
And the public is allowed access to the images, the cast vote records, and there's all kinds of records that we've been, analyzing to great depth to show that our elections in 2020, 2022 have not been the results that they have published. And the latest state election board meeting verified that Fulton County, that there was like 388,000 votes in Georgia that should never have been counted. The truth is out there, and now how do we enforce the truth? Well, it's going to happen. This election, I think, in many states who have put in a lot of effort with their county boards of elections, are not going to let a cheat happen this time.
So that is the hope. Like, so that work that you guys have accomplished, in my opinion, I'm never a black-pilled person, but I realize sometimes that I know.
What's that mean? What's that mean?
Black-pilled means that you're just hopeless.
No
and
hope.
You think there's chance.
Yeah.
Kind of a monolithic, and it's not. They're people.
There's
who
no
control
heroes.
Just like
there
us.
There are no heroes, Brad.
Right. And for me, at this local level where you can affect that change, even though they do try and target these local levels, you just have to fight back. And I think part of a demoralization campaign is to make people feel demoralized. I mean, that's the whole part of, not part of, that's all of it. And you read the Art of War, you make yourself bigger than you are, to intimidate your opposition into submission. People need to realize they're not huge, that you can have these small victories and you can affect change. And you guys at VoterGA are one of the most shining examples of that, in my opinion. That's when I was watching back the Georgia debate, and I don't know if I got the exact facts correct about the 88 votes or whatever the county was when I asked Mike Termott about it, but I told him about that and how it was railroaded because none of the judges wanted to, they did not want to let you guys continue to search for it because it would have they were probably threatened. It would have put their job in jeopardy, maybe their families, they felt like. And when I asked Termott if he knew about that, about those votes that were actually Trump's, he goes, yeah, I'm just like, he's a fucking petulant child, and he obviously didn't know about it. He didn't care about it. And wrapping this back to Mike Termott and the candidate there, I feel like Mike Termott, I don't know if he's a plant or if he's just seeking his next phase of his life, some sort of fame or something. I think he's Chase's probably worst enemy. I think Chase or Reginald posted that he had a good conversation with Chase. Now, that to me is interesting. I don't know what that conversation was. Did you guys see him post that?
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't know. What's your take from that, Jake?
I mean, the day before, Reginald said he's done with politics. It's beneath him. So, I don't know how much he's actually going to help. He might, I think, basically from here on out, Reginald is just going to be promoting his books and his papers and all that kind of stuff, and he'll send some literature Chase's way and hope that Chase, heeds it and reads it and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think he's going to be an active member of the campaign.
Yeah. Well, I told Josh, I was like, because Chase wanted to make a video with Josh as Trump. I was like, Josh, I think we got to maybe get into his campaign and radicalize him. We got to straighten him out. We got to take him the other way. And I say that half jokingly, but I think he's probably going to be surrounded by people who are just totally gonna be over. I mean, he's a younger guy. I mean, he's a little bit younger than me. He's in his 37.
He's like what, 38? Did you follow his senatorial campaign?
I only on the news.
All right, so you don't know any of his campaign staff or any of that?
No,
it really does seem to be people drawn from the liberal spectrum.
Yes, 100%. Like there's nobody that's going to even have ever uttered the word Mises Caucus on his campaign. Like it's going to yes. That's who Chase surrounds himself with, and that's who Chase like draws towards himself as well. It's
and that's
weird,
the environment he came from.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you think they square that? How do you think someone who, I mean, do you think he maybe thinks he's like a classical liberal?
I think that's what they call themselves, isn't it?
That's
no, I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
You don't think so?
A proud libertarian. I'm a libertarian, but I don't know that if he can actually even recite the planks of libertarianism. Whether or not he's ever read a Hayek or even economics in one lesson, I would be surprised to find that out.
Interesting.
So he won like the classical libertarianism something. I saw a post where he was not nominated, but
there's a caucus, classical liberal caucus or whatever. Within the libertarians, it's basically Spike said this yesterday on his Spaces. He says there's people who are the radical within the party, which right now is the Mises Caucus, and there's always been this. It just comes and goes as different caucuses and different groups. Then there's the moderate who want to run candidates, stay straight on the line, and not diverge from it. And so he falls more in that category, whereas the Mises Caucus and people like me want strong, abrasive sometimes, but radical messaging to try to connect with people that is to make us to set us apart from the Republicans and the Democrats.
Okay, Jake, tell us about what happened with the Mises Caucus. Finish with your thought. I don't mean to interrupt, but with Dave Smith, after you finish your thought.
No, that was the end of my thought.
So Dave Smith was going to be the candidate, correct?
He was going to be the candidate. That was the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Dave or Joshua?
Joshua for a minute. As soon as Joshua bailed on the vice chair, that he was out. He bailed on too many things for a lot of Mises Caucus folks to take him seriously again. And so it was going to be Dave. Dave had said he was very much considering running. He thought he was going to run. And then his son was born last year with some really bad medical issues right out of the womb. And so he had to take a step back. It became clear he became far more distant from the Libertarian Party. He didn't mention it as much in his podcasts. And so it was clear to all of us before he said it that he wasn't going to run. And knowing that, and then finally hearing him say it, kind of deflated the whole caucus, because we had been gearing up for this big Dave Smith run, because whether you like him or not, he is one of the best communicators of libertarian principles that is around today.
Yeah. Better speaker than he is comedian.
I would agree with that. I love Dave Smith, but you're probably right about that.
But he does eloquently speak the messages that you got that represent Mises Caucus.
Yeah,
there's no doubt.
I mean, for an example, like before the Trump speech, he came out. People were riled up. There was MAGA folks. There's libertarians. He got everybody on the same page and cheering for the same thing. Yep. Like it was an incredibly impressive accomplishment considering how heated it was between the two groups for the hour and a half leading up to the speech.
And we were sitting there for 4 hours too before the speech.
I know. I was there for so long.
We had to be there for 4 hours. Everybody's just getting riled up, man.
It was such a waste of time. Trump needs to learn punctuality. That is infuriating.
He was like 40 minutes late.
Apparently, like that's average. I've heard can be an hour and a half late, 2 hours late sometimes. So, but yeah, like Mises Caucus, we just kind of got deflated, and no one would step up and take the role. No one would run for president, and so Reginald, who is a decent intellectual, but he's not a good public speaker.
No, he's a smart guy for sure.
Yeah, he's a smart dude, but he should have been on the campaign as like an advisor, not as the front man.
Right. Yeah. He's a very intellectual guy. He seems like to me, like very professor-like, which is, I think, what he was.
Yeah, exactly.
some quack says Angela said stronger candidates decided not to run because they knew that they couldn't beat Dave, and that is part of what. That's a shame that happened. He's obviously has the ability to speak to a mainstream audience because he was on, that podcast where he's debating Cuomo the other day, and he's not Ron Paul, but he is I would say maybe Ron Paul-ish light anyway. I'm skeptical of everybody. You know that, Jake. So I can't go as far to say that. Like I'm standing next to Jake. I'm going, I think that guy's a Fed. I think that guy's full of shit. And Jake's like, I love these guys. I'm like, I'm sorry, dude.
I can attest to that. That is very accurate.
Yes. But you're the only person here I trust other than Josh, Jake. You, Josh, and Zach.
Goodness, yeah, no, that's pretty much how you acted at that thing. It was hilarious.
I'm so sorry. Your wife was so kind for putting up with me too.
We had a blast, man. That was such a fun night hanging out with you and Josh.
And we both lost our credit cards too. Wasn't that crazy?
Yeah, that was wild. Yeah. I finally found mine. Hotel security had it. I have no idea how they got it.
Chase Oliver took it.
Huh. Interesting.
So I did find Josh's Daenerys Targaryen to kind of go out on. We can, and this is just, if you guys are just joining us in the show, you're gonna have no idea what this is really. But our friend Josh that plays Trump on the show and played Trump at the convention, he does a great job. He used to do a parody where he played I would say a trans character before it was cool.
No, he was. It wasn't a trans character. He was Daenerys. He was a woman.
He looks fucking good in a dress too. Well, that's all I'm gonna say. He looks great in a dress.
Josh is a lady. We went out to a Waffle House
with
him dressed like that and got a lot of fun looks.
It got a little bit like maybe we don't have any cameras on. It's time to take the dress off. Not in that way.
I opened doors for him and everything.
I introduced him to my family.
Yeah.
All right, so here, that's a very good actress there. I can't remember her name. She's a very good improviser. There's Sean there in the background.
That's Sean.
And here's one of his sketches. Game of Thrones parody, State of the Union.
Queen Daenerys Stormborn, breaker of things, mother of dragons. Misa. Oh, her titles. Yada, yada, yada.
She's playing Cersei, I think.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Game of Walls. Danny 2020 is campaign. State of the Seven.
Thank you very much, Crooked Cersei. The state of the Seven Kingdoms is strong. Like fiery dragon strong. Like the zombie mountain strong. I have done so much, so much, single-handedly with no help at all. I killed a giant with my small little hands. I cured grayscale by chopping off layers of skin from my grandpa, Ser Jorah, a war veteran, despite the rumors it was a chubby night watchman. That's all fake ravens. Fake ravens.
Bullshit.
It wasn't, it was me.
Bullshit.
The Unsullied are free because of me. I burned the Lannister soldiers with my awesome dragon flying abilities, despite their big arrow launcher thingy trying to take down my baby, Danny Jr. I'm so owning this queen thing right now. By the way, you know I love miners. And the miners are working overtime under Dragonstone, mining that dragon glass for the upcoming war against the White Walkers. Now, let me reassure each and every one of you. The White Walkers are no threat. Do you see any here? No, none of them are here. Any stonemen here? Not a one. I have the best people working on it. Take my hand to the Queen, Tyrion, Council Majority Leader. I kind of think he looks like a turtle. He's so smart and so tall and kills daddies and whores like no one else can. He's gonna come up with a plan to stop those whites. My man, Big John Stud, Snow, has got the whole North and the wildlings fighting for us. We let them out of their cages, and they're fighting for us now. I told you they would. There's nothing to fear, and there absolutely is no collusion. I've never even met the Night King before. I don't even like the color blue. I hate ice cubes. Fake ravens again.
Bullshit.
7 blessings to you.
So yeah, that's he did a number of those.
He would do them live as well.
Yeah, the
Dude,
best
that's
one is
so
probably
good.
Danny 2016 episode 1. He talks about, I don't know, he puts fires out with this man vagina. Check it out, Danny Targaryen 2016. He's thinking about bringing.
He went to
character back.
Dragon Con dressed as her and did a press conference in his hotel room. It was amazing.
I think he met a lot of girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
All right,
That dude
guys.
is so funny.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me. Jake, what are you working on? Where can people find you?
Right now, I'm really focused on Liberty Libations. We air every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on Rumble, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all the places. You
It's
can
a
go
great
find me there.
show.
Sweet.
Yeah. Check it out. And apologize to the rest of your showmates. I know that when we were talking,
Don't
Spike,
apologize to them.
And
Don't
I was a
apologize
couple
to them.
gummies deep, and I kept which by the way, I thought it was funny that that Lars during the debate, it's like he hired ringside girls, who walk around holding the cards, between. So there's in the walkway between the Trump people and the Libertarian Party people, there's a little space there. And so every so often, it's like some people would just walk through like little ringside girls carrying a Lars 2024 sign, turning around like that. And I was like demonstrating that. And then I just saw these people that I think the only one of them was, who was it? I think it was somebody that was on your show. I can't remember who it was, but it was definitely somebody that I knew. And I was like, hey, guys, we're going to go get in the hot tub. You guys in? Or I was really being obnoxious. And they were totally having a serious conversation. I apologize about being a retard. And
Never apologize for that.
we
And
didn't
definitely,
have a hot tub. It was a bathtub.
there we go. Well, that works too.
Yeah,
It's a little more intimate though.
Yes, but I was just joking, obviously. So thank you, Jake. Check out Jake does wonderful work. Jake's actually building his own house right now. Very impressive. Ted, tell people where they can find you, what you're doing next.
I didn't hear the whole question.
Tell people where they can find you and what you're up to next or whatever you want to tell.
Well, I am on Twitter. I'm still on Facebook. Sorry, choked myself up there.
Ted. So Ted had a brief medical procedure that went well. So that congratulations on getting through that. I didn't know if you wanted me to put that out there, but I did want to let people know. So give Ted some well wishes on that.
Well, thanks. I will say I just had a lumbar fusion to fix an old issue in collapsed disc. But I'm okay.
And that's a tough surgery. So I'm glad you got through it, and thanks for joining us. And follow Ted on Twitter. Ted does a lot of great work.
I want to also mention a couple of Rumble channels.
All right.
One of which is Shifting the Paradigm. Shifting the Paradigm. We just made a whole conference public on everything you need to know about creating a parallel economy, a parallel society, and a parallel schooling system, everything. So Shifting the Paradigm, I think you'll find the interesting videos there from a lot of interesting speakers. I'm still doing work with VoterGA and in the election integrity space. I have a Rumble channel called Operation Educate.
Awesome.
Where I have a lot of really interesting videos from behind the scenes. I've got other Rumble channels too. But I did put up several of the convention videos on the Libertarian Party of Georgia YouTube channel.
Fantastic.
So I'm still doing that, pushing out the pushing out the videos.
Awesome. Well, thank you both of you guys for the great work that you do. You guys are some of the best and the most genuine that I've met, and I appreciate everything that y'all do. And Ian, tell everybody where they can find you. I know that you have a Twitter channel where you play
yeah, you can always. Reginald Vandermeer is a character I play on Twitter.
Is he going to vote Libertarian?
Reginald V. Actor. He is not going to vote Libertarian. He is a gay Muslim pro-Palestinian supporter, and he's big friends with people like Ibram Kendi X, and he's very progressive guy. Very progressive.
Fantastic. Well, check that out. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you for hanging out. Propagandafight.com, youtube.com/Brad Binkley, the Prop Report, on Rumble, the Prop Report, and at Freedom Act Radio on Twitter. And we'll be back doing shows the rest of this week too. Good to be back. We will talk to you guys next time. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.